most of my career was within corporate South Africa, specifically within financial services. And then about 5 years ago, I quit my job with no plan. And I've kind of just been figuring it out ever since.
Sure, sure. I think we have a lot in common. I'm also still trying to figure things out. And also, I left the financial services industry, I think probably 7 years ago, with no plan. So we have a lot in common there. So, Sihle, in your book, you describe a very tough corporate environment, and I know that many people experience, go through the same experiences in corporate. So, I'd like to know, how did you stay confident after you left the banking sector? And, perhaps tell us a little bit more about what happened after you left.
So it was very interesting because there were so many different things that I was feeling and processing, I guess, trying to process after I'd left. The one thing was trying to process the feeling of betrayal, because being a young Black woman, being in an organization that I thought I would thrive in, being a young Black woman, an organization that I thought, my career would be safe in and where I would be protected because there's integrity and ethics, and I still very naively had believed in the importance of, roles like HR. So after I left, having had a horrible experience, I really struggled with feeling betrayed by the organization, by the systems within the organization, and by the Black leaders who had let me down within that organization. So it was a lot for me to process that. And then there was trying to process being let down by my Black colleagues who would complain in private, and then when it's time to speak up, I'm the only one that's speaking up, and so I look like I'm the one that's crazy, I'm the one that's nitpicking, being labeled a troublemaker, and so I had a lot of anger around that specifically as well. But the other thing for me was struggling with issues around self-doubt, the lingering issues of all the things that they said about me. Are they true? Are they not? Am I really good at what I do? Am I not? Am I missing something? Have I overestimated my capabilities? Because I'm on the losing end. I didn't get the justice that I wanted from this organization. So maybe there's something wrong with me, and so it was really just trying to navigate that, trying to find my way back to myself that was quite difficult. And then, of course, when you quit without a plan, with no job lined up, and you've got responsibilities that are sitting here, it was very, very stressful trying to think what comes next, because, it's not like jobs were overflowing. And as a young Black woman who specializes in PR and communications, the opportunities are not exactly overflowing, particularly if you're somebody who wants to consult within the corporate sector. Because if you're in the corporate sector, you know that most of these types of accounts go to white-owned agencies. Absolutely. And so it was a very, very difficult space to be in, trying to figure out who I am all over again. Who am I without all of the trappings that come with corporate success, having to literally downscale everything, lose my car, lose my social life. I literally had gone down to bare minimum. And it was a very, very, very difficult thing for me to do because, all of those trappings had become part of my identity. Having the convertible Audi, being able to be a girl who lunches and brunches and all of these things, and having that all, taken away was a very, very, very difficult thing for me to process. And so it's been a journey of 5 years of finding my way back to myself and also redefining what success is to me and, living life on my own terms.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I think it's so important to have our own version of success, instead of looking at society and allowing society to define what success should look like, in our own lives. So What I'd like to know next, Sihle, is what sort of activities would you say women need to get involved in while or during a career pause?
I think the first thing that I would recommend is not feeling guilty about the pause, right?
Okay.
We are all so used to this culture of constantly being on the move, constantly doing something, constantly being productive. And so it defeats the purpose of pausing for a second. And I think the other thing is that we grow up with this idea of what our lives are going to be about and what they're going to be like and what our careers are going to look like, because that's what we've always seen, that's what we've been told, that's what people's expectations of us are. And so we convince ourselves that that's what we want for ourselves as well.
Yeah.
And what that pause does is it gives you an opportunity to truly reflect on what is important to you. What are you passionate about? If you've been in finance for your whole career, is that really what you want to do? Seriously, is that what's fulfilling to you? Are there other things that interest you? And can you explore those things? I think, especially as Black women, we spend so much time prioritizing everybody else's needs and everybody else's expectations, and we always come last on our list. There's this very interesting thing that I see, this post that I often see on social media that says something along the lines of, if somebody asked you to list the people that you love, how long would it take for you to list yourself? And for many, many of us, we don't even feature on that list. It's always about everybody else, And so I think it's important for us to be able to take the time to reflect on what's truly important to us. But also, it's not exactly all roses and perfume. It's very, very difficult because there's a lot of uncertainty that comes with that pause. There's uncertainty around, what's next for your career. Is there still space for you within the workforce? Are you doing the right things? Are you making the right decisions? A lot of us battle with, if I make a decision to do something that is, suited to me, that serves me, I'm being selfish, by not looking out or not doing something that other people expect of me. And there's so many things that we need to unpack and free ourselves from in terms of the various narratives that have been, that we've kind of internalized for ourselves. But I also think it's an important time for us to expose ourselves to different types of learning.
Yeah.
There's so much information that is shared, not just going to university and doing formal courses. There's so much information and content that is shared on social media platforms informally. There's so much you can learn to upskill yourself, but also there's so many things that can expand your interests, and you might actually find that you land up in a completely different space purely because of the content that you expose yourself to. I'm very, very specific about who I follow on social media, what type of content I expose myself to, because I understand that it feeds my mind constantly. Even if I'm not on social media, that stuff is sitting there being processed. And so I'm very, very particular about curating who I expose myself to, what kind of work I expose myself to, what kind of information I expose myself to. And I think that that's an important thing to do, because there's a lot of junk that fills up the system, and it actually distracts us from the things that we should actually be doing that are good and nurturing for our minds and for our spirits as well.
Yeah. Sihle, as you're speaking, I'm just thinking, during your pause, I think, or anybody, I think it's so important to have a good support structure, because, it's tough, So I'd like to know, who makes up your support structure? Or especially during your career pause?
So I went from having a very vibrant social life and lots of friends to nothing, lost a hell of a lot of people along the way. It was a very, very difficult space to be in, very, very lonely space to be in, because it's an isolation of sorts. But my support system has really been my family. My mom and my daughter have been incredible in keeping me sane, reminding me of my brilliance in the moments where I forget it, or in the moments where I feel like I've been putting in all of this work, but I just don't see the results. I'm just not getting the traction that I want, because it can be very disheartening. Because you start questioning, am I in the right space? Am I doing the right things? Am I not doing the right things? Why am I not getting the type of, response that I was intending to get? So, I've had so many moments where I feel like I'm churning all of this stuff out, to help people, to give people knowledge, to give people advice on how to handle particular things within their own individual workplace scenarios. And it's just like,
yeah,
but where's the money though? And so I've really struggled with the practicality of trusting the process. Now I'm at a space where I can say I trust the process, I trust myself, and I trust that what I'm doing will fulfill its purpose. But the actual journey itself is incredibly difficult, especially when you are in a space where you are walking in your purpose, and your work generally exists to serve others. It serves something bigger than you, because it can be a very thankless space to be in. And we're human. We want to be acknowledged, we want to feel seen, and all of these things, and it's hard to juggle all of that. And so when you have a support system that is able to say to you, you're doing great, sweetie, it makes things a little bit easier.
Yeah. I love that. I think I can completely relate to what you're saying, about, how difficult the journey is. And I'd love to know, like, how do you stay motivated to just keep going, and just keep pushing, and fulfilling your purpose?
I'm fortunate in that I'm passionate about the work that I do. And it's a fire within me, being in a space that deals with issues of transformation and equality, and issues faced by Black women in the workplace in particular, is something that's very, very close and personal to my heart. So most times I just get it done off of that. Yeah. But I have many days where I'm just like, I am tired. I don't feel like doing this. I'm not getting out of bed today. I'm not typing a single email. I'm not developing any content because today I'm just tired. I don't want to. I don't have it in me, because it's also emotionally and psychologically strenuous to do this type of work. Yeah. And then I'll be like, go on social media, and then I get triggered because some white person did something that just drives me nuts, and then the fire is reignited, and then I get on it again. So no 2 days are the same, no 2 weeks are the same. I could be incredibly productive this week and do absolutely nothing next week. And I appreciate the privilege of being able to have that kind of flexibility. But also, it can be very discouraging to do this kind of work and the money doesn't flow in regularly, or people don't want to pay you. People want advice for free. As soon as you say, yeah, sure, I can help you, here's what it costs, then people disappear, and it's been such an interesting thing for me to think, here I find myself in this space where I'm doing this work that is intended to help people so that they better navigate the workplace, right? I'm doing this to help you. And there's so much free content that I make available across my platforms, whether it's my Instagram or my Twitter, or if you go onto my website, there's blog articles. If you go onto my podcast, there's stuff that you can listen to. If you go onto my YouTube channel, there's stuff that you can listen to. But if you want something specific and personal to you, you actually have to pay for it, and people don't want to pay for it. And so it makes you feel like do you not value me and the fact that I need to make an income? How can it be that you need my help, but you won't contribute to help me so that I can make a living off of this work? So there are definitely moments of resentment, I must admit, where sometimes it's just like, you know what, y'all are playing me. But it's an interesting journey nonetheless.
Yeah, sure. And earlier you spoke about how you left the financial services industry without a plan, and somehow you found your way, and you eventually found your purpose. How important is it, do you think, to have like a solid plan? Like a solid exit strategy to know exactly what you're going to be doing when you leave your job?
I think it's incredibly important. It's never ideal to leave without a plan. That's like last number. Like there's no other option. Like your environment is so unbearable that you are willing to just risk it all and see what happens.
Yeah.
I would never recommend that anybody does that.
Yeah.
It's always important to have a plan, because you have to be able to ensure that you can insulate your emotional and psychological well-being, because it is incredibly stressful and strenuous to be stuck without a plan and feeling very hopeless and directionless. But also the financial security. So if you can save up for it, or if you can have a backup job or a business idea, maybe it was a side hustle that you can now make your main focus, then do that. I definitely would not recommend just leaping without any cushioning to anyone. The other thing that really helped me, though, was that within my support system, I had people who were able to say, okay, we'll help you take care of these bills, because we understand your situation. We understand that there's no way you can stay in that environment, and so that helped me a hell of a lot. Otherwise, I think I probably would have died somewhere along the way, because it's really, really intense.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, you keep, talking about how difficult it was, when you left your corporate job. How important is it to take care of your mental health during that time?
It's important all the time. Mental health is something that so many of us take for granted, even now when I look at social media and everybody's speaking about self-care. Most of the posts that I see about self-care are about going shopping, going for lunch, and taking bubble baths. But yes, that's one element of it, but it's a very, very tiny element of it, because the real work is around dealing with your emotions, dealing with your trauma, understanding what your traumas are, how it triggers you, and how it impacts on your personal relationships, your relationship with yourself, and your career. So many of us, and particularly as Black women, go through life with these traumas, dragging them along with us, because we're not even aware of them, because we haven't taken the time to actually process the various traumas that we've experienced, whether it's, being told we're not good enough, or being forced to work in environments where we can't show up as ourselves fully. And so you have to put on an act every single day, you're code switching. That creates trauma within us, because it starts to create a distance in terms of our identity of self. There's, traumas that we deal with around the fact that we don't feel safe as women in South Africa, in any space that we're in. Within the workplace, we worry about sexual harassment. We worry about the fact that as Black women, we are underpaid, which is incredibly stressful. And yet Black women are the biggest demographic in South Africa. They're the most underpaid. They're the most educated. But also they are the biggest group that are single parents, and heading up households, but underpaid. There's so many stresses and strains and traumas that we carry with us, that sit with us, and they impact the decisions that we make. So many of us get into unhealthy relationships because we think it makes us feel safe, or we need to just have something to say, well, at least I have a relationship, or at least I have a husband, or at least I have a this. And so it's not so bad, because it's a lot easier to maybe make that decision than to actually deal with ourselves and be okay with being with ourselves, being okay with the silence, being okay with not constantly occupying ourselves and keeping ourselves busy and distracted. In these past 5 years, I have spent so much time with myself that I'm finally in a space where I can say, I love myself. I'm happy with myself. I would much rather spend time with myself than so many other people, you know. I would much rather be at home and doing things that are fulfilling to me. But also, it's a lot easier for me to establish boundaries. Sure. You know, I don't feel guilty about it. My no is my no, and I'm not going to explain my no. You know, even when it comes to work, because I do consulting work with clients, don't call me before a certain time and don't call me after a certain time. I don't care who you are. Those are my boundaries. You know, a lot of people during lockdown have complained about the fact that either their employers or their clients have had this thing that if you're working from home, I can access you at any time. And I'm like, no, no, you cannot. We're not doing that. Because it's also just so empowering for me to know that my power is with me. You know, I'm not controlled by other people. I'm not there. I make decisions from a place of confidence and security within myself. And I don't make decisions out of a place of fear. I don't make decisions because I think, oh, if I don't do that, then I might lose this contract. Oh, if I don't do that, then I might lose this friend. Because if you don't respect my boundaries, then you have no business being in my life. And that has been so beneficial for my mental and emotional well-being.
And Sihle, if you look back at your journey, is there anything that you would do differently?
Honestly, no.
Yeah.
There really isn't. Because I sincerely believe that every single thing that has happened in my life, good or bad, needed to happen to get me to be the woman that I am right now and the woman that I'm going to be in the future. I think that any tweaking would have altered the course of my life and of my career and the work that I do and the types of relationships that I have. And so, yes, it was hard. Yes, many things sucked. But the results of that are beautiful. You know, it's not perfect. You know, but I'm in a space where I have learned so much about myself. I've learned so much about people. I've learned so much about culture and how things work, how power plays work, how organizations work. My personal experience with that has added so much value to the work that I do, and also how I interact with people. And also, it's really opened my eyes to other people's experiences, because so many people now feel safe to be able to share so much with me. And even with the people that I do private coaching with, because I'm a career coach as well, you know, being able to learn through that is so insightful. And it plays a major role in the work that I do when I consult with organizations, because my intention is to contribute towards the creation of better, healthier, happier, more equitable workplaces for Black people, and particularly Black women.
Yeah. All right. And Sihle, before we let you go, any final words for a woman that is considering a career pause, or somebody that's just in the middle of a career pause?
Be kind to yourself. I think that's so important. The other thing is, don't focus on what everybody else is doing.
Sure.
What you need to focus on is your why. So understand why you're taking that pause. why you're making decisions that you're making, and where you ultimately want all of that to lead you. And focus on that. Don't worry about what Sihle is doing or how she's doing it, because my why is different from yours. My purpose is different from yours. What fulfills me is different. You need to be sure about what is fulfilling to you and make decisions on that basis. And also be selfish with yourself. Put yourself first. Choose yourself all the time, because this life is yours, and you're the one that has to live with the consequences of all the decisions that you make.
Sure. Well, thank you so much, Sihle. I'm just going to check if we've got any questions from the Facebook group before we let you go. I don't see anything here. Ladies, if you have any questions, please just make sure that you share them with us. Sihle Sipoga Zinyati says, thank you. That's all I have. Sihle, it's been absolutely amazing. I don't see any other questions. I have learned so much from our chat. I am, feeling so inspired by the way you've just, handled your journey. And also it's just so nice to hear or to chat to somebody that's sort of been through something similar to what I've been through, and to just, get some insights on how other people are handling the challenges that you are dealing with. So thank you so much. It's been an honor. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with us. And just thank you for, sorry, I'm distracted because there's a question coming through. Thank you for spending the morning with us. Let me just read this one question. Oh, okay. It's Londi. She says, get Sihle's book, ladies. It's a must read. Sihle, where can ladies get your book?
Thank you, Londi. Yes, please get it. If you go onto my website, sihlebhalani.com/books, you'll be able to order it there. And actually this week, it was announced that I am shortlisted for an award for a first-time author. So I'm quite excited about that. So yes, please go and get the book.
If you don't mind, do you mind just telling the ladies just a little bit about your book? Just for the ladies that might not know.
Sure. So my book is called We Are the Ones We Need, The War on Black Professionals in Corporate South Africa. And essentially, I've written it in a memoir-like style where I speak about my personal experiences within the workplace, and the various microaggressions throughout my career that I experienced, which eventually led up to a huge blow up when I was working at a bank and reporting to a white woman who was a incredible bully and made my life hell for almost a year. And so I detail those experiences, from being sabotaged, from being set up for constructive dismissal, and how I literally had to fight for my life and for my career because of an entire system that was supporting a bully. And so I spotlight on issues like discrimination, like the pay gap that exists between white and Black professionals, which is even worse if you're a Black woman. I also speak a lot about language. I focus a lot on language because it's one of the things that we underestimate within the workplace, that we don't really pay any mind to, and yet it has such major repercussions for us as Black professionals, because there's very specific words, very specific terms that are used and directed specifically at Black professionals when the intention is to downplay our contribution or to diminish us or to erase us within the workplace and isolate us from others.
Beautiful. Sihle, there's Tumi would like to know whether is it a voting award? Can she vote for you?
Oh, thank you. No, there's a panel of judges that decides all of that. The awards are taking place on the 7th of November.
Okay. And then I'm going to read the last comments. Sihle, this is from Kukundlazi. Sihle, I love your wisdom and encouragement. You give not just, and the encouragement you give not just here, but on social media platforms as well. Keep it up. You have people looking up to you. And one more. Lynette Maja says, congratulations, Sihle. Thank you for continuing to inspire us.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much, Sihle. And congratulations again for your nomination. And thank you for joining us today. It was an honor to have you.
Thank you. It was an absolute pleasure.
Thank you. Cheers, Sihle.